Hello everyone. I have finally collected enough energy to talk about one of the cool things that I recently built. So I already talked about my and Thori's plugin called Harp-NeoVim, and it's cool, it's amazing. Go watch my stream on it, or I'm going to give you a link to Harp-NeoVim in the chat so you can check it out for yourself. Everything is better explained in the README as it generally is. But yeah, it's been amazing and I've been using it. Definitely my #1 favorite plugin, and truthfully I use it more than Telescope for navigation, which is difficult to achieve, I would say. So what did I create? First of all, have a look. I moved screen key so you can see my current working directory. This has been an issue on streams multiple times, so finally it's fixed. So what have I created? Let me go from a distance as I generally do. So let's go to this file of mine called AstroCore. It is 988 lines long, so a pretty hefty file, meaning that just scrolling through it to try to find a place that you want to get to is doable, but it's kind of annoying. Another option that you may have is first to fold everything, and then you have to scroll a bit less, although it's still kind of like non-perfect, and then you go on like, oh, I want normal mappings, and here you go. And then you still have to scroll probably, because my normal mappings are long themselves. This is still normal mappings. Okay, they're done now. So second option, right? Third option is leaving something like this, basically a comment that will pretty sure be unique, and then searching for it, like you're wherever in the file, and then you're like, okay, let's search a window, here we are. That's actually pretty fast. However, when I'm like in the flow, I won't bother to actively go and search for something, especially if I wasn't able to make this both make sense and be easily searchable. Like maybe I search for window and whoops, I'm in the wrong place. Well, here, I mean, thankfully it is the only thing in this file, but what if it is not? Then I have to min-max this random comment to be precise. And even then, forget about this. Maybe I don't have the comment yet, or maybe I don't want to add it because it would be too specific, kind of too strange. Maybe say I can't name it window, I need to name it some other random string. Well, now you coming into my dot files see this comment and like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, oh, actually, this is my fucking special comment for me to be able to get to this quickly. It's a bit kind of like, ugh. So yeah, basically, once your file is big enough, you will generally rely on the LSP to move to stuff. Like if I wanted to jump to a function called, I guess, trim trailing white space, boom, I can get to it. It's actually pretty reasonable because it is like fuzzy searching for this function. Although, yeah, it can take some time for the LSP to load in. It's like not instant, but it's pretty reasonable. However, when we talk about the example of normal mappings here, how do I get to this section, for example? I guess maybe I can search for, yeah, I guess I can, fair enough, but then I have to think about the specific mapping to get to, even if I didn't really think of a mapping that I want to get to. So, for example, I want to add a new mapping to this section in the normal keys section. I don't remember what's the last thing. Matter of fact, I might not even remember any of these. Now let's assume that this comment doesn't exist here. How do I get here? I kind of have to scroll at this point because I don't remember which mappings are in this section. When I look at it and I look at all the mappings, I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I won't preemptively know about all of these. So, what is a solution that often comes to mind? Local marks. How about we make a local mark named L, and now local mark L points to this location. So I can be in another file and I'm like, okay, let me go to this file and maybe I end up here. And I'm like, okay, I can go to mark L. And here we go, we're here. Perfect solution, right? Yeah, of course. Let's just randomly start working on another function. This is my long function that is, I mean, you shouldn't do this ideally, but this function is going to be 100 lines long. Wait, I did it the wrong way. Hold up, we can probably do 100 capital S. That works in a different way than I imagined. Okay, let's do 100 O, and then do code, and it's gonna load. Fuck, I'm terrified now. Here we go. Strange how it added double comments, but only sometimes. See, this is why I don't give count to O and capital O. They work kind of strangely. So ideally what you'll want to do is do A or I, or capital A, capital I. Those work a bit like more reasonably. I'm really not sure why it's putting 2 here. Oh, actually I know, because if you do O here, it already adds the comment, and then the manual comment that I add is added too. Pretty strange, but basically this is not what I actually wanted to show you. So we added maybe a single huge ass function, which shouldn't happen. Like a function by all accounts shouldn't be 100 lines long, but maybe there's like a couple of functions that I added for new functionality. Okay, now I want to go to the LSP section to add a mapping for this function. Let's go ML. Whoops, where are we? We are in normal mappings. Wait, where that LSP section? Oh fuck, we gotta scroll again. See what happens? And we kind of have to scroll a bit. And here we are again. Now I have to refresh my previous local mark. This kind of sucks. For situations where a certain section of the code doesn't move in your file, yeah, local marks are the way to go. But in a configuration file, things will probably move, right? Things will probably move, and you can't rely on local marks to be precise. Because even now I do ML, and now we're in the wrong place again, but the other way around. Now we have to go back rather than forward. So this kind of sucks. What could be the solution for this? The solution is, once again, yeah, we can search, and for LSP here specifically, it's not a big search. It's just a 3-character search. But remember once again that it won't always make sense to name your sections with like quickly searchable things. So you either end up with like lucky names that you were able to find that make sense, or nonsense comments that are specifically so you could jump to the section that otherwise make no sense in your configuration. So what's another way of going about it? What if we record a macro? I have it remapped, that's why it's not Q. You're referencing something that I do not recognize. You'll have to elaborate on it. So we record a macro into the L register to stand for LSP, and then we do search, capital L, SP, enter, and then we stop recording the macro. Okay, now wherever we are, I can do ZU instead of the @ sign, I do ZU to execute the macro. I know it's kind of confusing to like have everything remapped and still use screen key. It almost doesn't make sense to have it, but it is what it is. So I execute the L macro, and funnily enough, nothing works. What? Well, that proves my point, I guess. Either I don't know how to use macros, and moving again, or either we didn't update it, see? So either you can't use a search in a macro for it to move you, or I'm misunderstanding something. By all accounts, this should work, so I'm not sure what it doesn't. Huh. But regardless of the actual resolution, my point was going to be, well, okay, we now hold a whole entire register for this single file, for this single section. There is a bunch of sections in this file. There's a bunch of sections in normal mappings even. If I wanted to make a section for like every section that I wanted to mark, let's count them like for sections that I do want to have easy access to. I want easy access to system. Fixes, fair enough, maybe I don't want. Features I definitely do, so 2. 3 for LSP. Abstractions should be added, so what is it for? For harp, definitely, so 5. See, it's already 5 and it's only for normal mappings. I'll also want to add sections for visual mappings, for operator pending mode mappings, and so on and so forth. Then also for the options, so these also for the commands, auto commands, and blammo, half of my registers are gone. So it's not viable actually to use registers for this sort of functionality to jump somewhere in the file, because you will take up your registers very, very quickly and will not be able to use them for other things, and that's just for one file. So it's just non-viable, and this is why I created search harps. They use the same type of idea that harp uses everywhere for every type of harp. Basically, you get to store search patterns in registers. And there are 3 types of search harps. Let's start with local harps. So local search harps are relative to a file, to a buffer path. So for this specific file, in home/prog.files astro lua plugins astrocore.lua, in this specific file, we have a set of registers that we can use. How does this work? First of all, let's search for harp, and now I want to store this in a local search harp. So I do my mapping to set local search harp into H, let's say. That makes a lot of sense. Forget about add search offset for now. I'll elaborate on that a bit later. Blammo. And what this essentially does is that when I use it with H, it just searches for what we got stored in H. So how does it work again? First, we search for something, and when you search for something, in case you didn't know, your last search pattern is stored in the / register. And this is how I automatically get it from you. This is why you don't have to first search and then also insert that search again into harp. You don't need to do that. It just gets automatically taken from your last search, which is very, very convenient. You know what? Why this is convenient? Because first, you get to make sure that your search works exactly how you expect it to. So you press enter, then you press N, you're like, okay, so it is unique in this entire file. Now I want to add it as a search harp. And then you can add it being sure that it is indeed correct and as you expect. It's super fucking nice. I love it. Yeah, so now I can easily jump to different sections in my code. Right now, I just jumped to options. I can also jump to auto commands, and I can jump to command mappings. And see, there I used exclamation mark for my register. You can use any damn key that you want. You can even use Control V, for example, or any control characters almost. And they will be differentiated. So you don't have to only use lowercase letters. You can use uppercase letters, numbers, like special symbols, basically everything that new Vim can recognize, you can use. But that is like a feature of Harp overall. That is the case with every type of Harp. Still, like, I appreciate it. I can just use whatever I want. Cool. So why isn't this better? First of all, I have to clear that idea. Local search harps aren't necessarily better. They're not going to be better always. Think of some file where things don't really move all that much. I actually have an example. I guess I don't. Hold up. Symbols. So this file, things don't really move in here. Not really. When I get a new cool nerd font symbol, I generally just add it to the end of this line. So things don't really move. If I made a local mark here, for example, oh, fuck. B is not working for me right now because of a certain plugin that I'll tell you about. But yeah, basically, if I wanted to make a local mark for this exact place, and I can, by the way, which is really nice. Because it's like bytes, the location is offset. That's interesting. Yeah, so basically, I can, because if anything is going to move, it's going to be moving here. So my mark is going to stay valid, most likely. And here, local marks actually kind of win, if B could work. I'll need to fix this kind of issue, where marks are an incorrect column. Actually, interesting question. I make a local mark here and go there. Oh fuck, my implementation of local marks has been working incorrectly this entire time with an off by 1 error. That's hilarious. I'll need to fix that. So it's not like because of the special characters. Let's add Harp NeoVim. Fix local marks off by 1. Didn't know that. Well, I guess now I do. So the benefit of a local mark here, disregarding that it doesn't work correctly right now, let's imagine that they're watching this at a point where I already have fixed it. The benefit is that, boom, that's it. All you needed to do is press like 2, at least in my case, keys, and you have set your position. If you are pretty sure that it's not going to move, well, here you go. You're done. You don't need to do much. But when it comes to search harps, you first have to actually do the search. The benefit that you get is the fact that it's going to stay valid forever, as long as that search is valid, that is. That is a huge upside. However, you do still need to search first. So in some places, it might actually make more sense to still use a mark, a local mark, rather than a local search harp. thought that was important to point out. So yeah, local search harps. Then we have global search harps. So those work kind of like global marks in the sense that they first move you to some certain file and then move you to some certain location. Let me show you. I use my mapping and then T, and here I have my configuration for Luago. That makes it so in this little place, only tasks that are at least some amount of days old appear. Basically, this is a place that I edit kind of often, and it makes a lot of sense for a global mark because I want this specific place in this file to get to it immediately from anywhere. That's the use case for global marks, and that is now the use case for global search harps. So the idea is very much the same. What if I add anything here? Then a global mark would start being invalid. But if I search for function, filter, mature, tasks, and then make a search harp for it, a global search harp, blammo, I can just end up here. That's already like very damn good. However, let's do quite a bit more magic that I'm gonna show you that will convince you just how powerful search harps can be. Also show off like a feature that I glossed off a bit earlier. So amazing. Now we can go to a specific place, to this function. The reason why I'm not searching for this, for example, and adding a search harp for this is because what if I delete realtor or delete filter? I can't really trust that. Switch name is a bit too inexact. Sure, right now it matches uniquely, but maybe it appears somewhere else in this file. Like eventually in the future, I'll have to think about that. So the most unique approach probably is going to be this. But the issue with this is that I'm not where I actually want to be. Every time that I use this global search harp, I'll have to go down to actually start doing whatever I intended to do to begin with. Effectively, what I want is to always end up here without matching this. Although probably this is going to be unique, but that's considering that I always keep like, oh, these tasks need to be at least 10 days old. What if I change them all to 11? Then it won't be valid, right? So still, this makes the most sense. So the reasonable approach would be, oh, okay, well, then I'll just search for this function and just scroll a bit. I mean, it's like not too far off. It's not really a big deal. I'll just deal with it, right? That's the reasonable approach. I am unreasonable, and to make a certain thing that I'm going to explain to you right now work, I spent, I think, an extra day or two figuring out the best solution for the plugin to make the most sense. First of all, let's start with a more complex search pattern that will search up until name. Let me just show you because it's pretty crazy. Let's search for filter mature tasks. What do we do from here? There's quite a lot of magic. So you might know from regex or even Vim regex, if you're familiar, that dot means any single character and star means 0 or more of the previous atom, which in this case is the dot. So any amount, including 0, of any character, starting from here. But it matches nothing. So what I wanted is to continue matching up until name, but this is not happening. Instead, it's matching nothing. That is because dot actually means any character whatsoever except a new line. Because if it truly meant any single character, a lot of your patterns would become incredibly slow because they would consider going to the end of the file, trying to match every single character up until the end of the file. Incredibly inefficient, which is why you have to opt into this feature. So you do backslash lowercase dot, and now you can see, or maybe you can notice, I'm not sure, but now this dot is matching the new line actually. That is because in Vim regex, if you prepend a certain character class with backslash underscore, now new line is included into this character class. So dot used to mean any character except new line, but with backslash underscore, we added a new line into this character class. Now it actually means any character whatsoever. And now let's use the star. And now it matches until the end of the file. This is not useful yet. Or I guess maybe it can be if you're using this type of thing in a replace, perhaps. But right now, for what we're doing, it's not actually useful. Starts becoming useful when you actually type in switch name. Blammo. Now we have matched everything up until name. But before we continue, no word from any sponsor. I don't have any. I want to show you another cool thing. So star has an extra meaning. Has an extra meaning of match as many as possible. So the semantic is that. And thankfully, Vim regex is smart enough to only match until switch name. But if, for example, 2 lines below, there would be another switch name, it would grab until that, rather than until the first switch name. So there's an extra thing. We do backslash brace minus brace. Right now it looks like it's doing exactly the same thing, and that's because in this specific situation, yes, it is doing the same exact thing. But what this means, it has a different semantic. It means match as little as you can, but as many as possible. Let me try to reword that. Match as little as possible to still make the pattern match, I guess, is the better way of wording it. So it's matching any single character whatsoever, including a new line. But beyond this place, it doesn't match anymore because it's reached the required amount of characters to match before switch name. I believe in normal regex, the star without the question mark after, that's a regex thing, it would just continue matching until the end of time. So this thingy is basically the star question mark of regex. So the difference here between star is that if there was another switch name and we use this would only match until the first switch name, and the star would match including the second. And to make sure that I'm not lying to you, because this happens very often on stream, let's actually test this, because I'm actually guessing, not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure, but I am guessing. See, so this character group matches until only the first one, because it successfully completes its objective, and now it's done, right? Let's change this to a star, and a star matches until the second one. So yeah, this is pretty interesting. Do keep the backslash braces in mind. The syntax is weird though, right? Like, why this? Why not like also a question mark or something? Why not some other special character that is not used? So the reason why this is so weird is because this is actually a range that you can specify. So for example, match from 1 up to 3, this is a range, and this range has the semantic of match from 1 to 3, but as many as possible. But if you want to reverse the semantic, you add a minus at the start, and now it means match from 1 to 3, but as little as possible. But if you provide no range, this just leaves us with the semantic of match as little as possible. Isn't that kind of cool? It's pretty whack, but it's also cool and beautiful in that sense. So this is why it's using these characters. It's pretty strange for sure, but I kind of love it, honestly. So now we have succeeded in matching up until switch name. Why is that useful at all? We still end up at function. This is useful because search offsets exist. Search offsets let you decide where your cursor is relative to your match. So if you do search / your pattern, then another /, now it's expecting from you a search offset. E stands for end, and so you place your cursor at the end of the match. Amazing, right? Holy fuck. So now you can use this search pattern to end up here, which is amazing. It's really good. Now this is like way closer to the actual place that you want to edit. Maybe all you have to do is just go down once. That's almost perfect. I mean, this is already like way better, because imagine that this function had like a lot more. Well, now going to this function isn't very useful because you still have to scroll thrice. That's ridiculous, right? But with using a search offset, this is no longer an issue. I guess I'm still banking on switch name being here, but now it has to be the switch name inside of filter mature tasks, so it's actually okay here. Hello. Another way to approach this, I guess, to make this a bit more proper, is first of all, let's, whoops, not this, is to use this again, because now it's actually going to matter as many, yeah, so, and then up until case, because I know this function has to have cases. Maybe it doesn't use name anymore, maybe I renamed it, but case will definitely be there. So this, I guess, makes a bit more sense. And the reason why we're using this group instead of a star is because, see what happens. Matches until the last case, probably in the file. So yeah. But for the example, let's end at name, because that's what I was working with when I came up with this solution to make this search harp even better. So we end up here. Already pretty good. But what if I have this ridiculous idea to, I want to be like 5 lines down, or what, 7? Sure, let's do 7 lines down from name. So first we search for filter mature tasks up until switch name, and then also 7 lines, which is very arbitrary, right? Like, this is ridiculous. You can't do this with the search. That's impossible, right? It is so possible. It is so possible, and it is scary. So let's re-enter our thingy. We search until switch name again. But now, instead of using the E thingy immediately, let's hold off on using a search offset for now and use a \ZS. So basically, before this point, this pattern has to match. And we're successfully matching nothing. So this position. And now we use a search offset plus 7. You can omit the plus if you want, by the way. This still means plus 7. So plus 7 lines down from the end of your, or rather, from the start, forget the from your pattern, wherever your cursor would be in that pattern is the from point. So basically, it would be from here, but our cursor is here, because that's the only thing that we match. So from this point, 7 lines down, I have successfully made up a search pattern ridiculous enough to allow me to go to this point specifically. Literally, like, we search for a function and then we wait until it's this line and then 7 lines from this. It's about as arbitrary and specific as you can get. And this is obviously very powerful. I've shown this off in this file already, but I didn't really go into it too much. When I use my local search harp for options, options end up at the top of the file. That is because I'm using the same exact idea here. You can see here I'm searching for options and then 13 lines down, using a search offset here as well. And this is how I can just immediately place my cursor in the midst of the actual things that I'm planning to be changing, rather than being here and then almost always having to scroll down, if not exactly always. No, like, I immediately start here and I can do less movement to reach what I actually want to touch. I also have a similar thing for auto commands. Also, I'm searching for auto commands and then using a search offset of 13. Very cool. How do you use this in Harp? I'm going to get to it. I'm very much going to get to it. But first of all, like, if you're already like, okay, fuck yeah, I'm sold, I want to use this immediately, you can go to the link that I have linked here. Everything that I'm going to be talking about, pretty much everything, is going to be explained in the README and likely in more detail on how to actually use this. So, I told you that your last search pattern ends up being stored in the / register, right? So let's do function and use the search offset of E, and we end up our cursor at the end. Cool. So now supposedly I can use I can just make a search harp with that search offset. However, where the fuck is the search offset? This is the thing that made me have to spend 1 or 2 more days working on this feature to make it work, to make it support search offsets, because by default, search offsets are not stored in the / register. They're not stored whatsoever, actually, as far as I know. Maybe they're stored somewhere, but I don't know at the very least. So yeah, your pattern is stored, but the search offset isn't, which is why there's a certain prompt. So maybe I search for this, and then I try, let me search for it first, and then try to save it into /. You can see how now it's asking add a search offset. If you don't want a search offset, first of all, this feature is not default. Most people are not going to even know about search offsets, much less use them, which is why this feature is not the default. By default, you're not asked of a search offset. You just immediately succeed in setting your search harp. Both, like all the 3 types of them, by the way. But if you do want to use search offsets, you would set an option for your mapping. That is all explained in like more detail in the README of the plugin. So now you can add a search offset, for example, E. Usually in search offsets, you have to do slash and then your search offset. Here you do not have to use that. Matter of fact, if you do, it will be broken. So just specify the actual search offset, E for example, or 13 to go 13 lines down. You press enter, and now when you use that search harp, boom, it works. It searches for the pattern and also uses the search offset. Blammo. Let me go show you my mappings for this. It is somewhere here. So yeah, here we have the per buffer mappings for search harps. You can see the for the set function, it has an option ask. Ask is exactly this thing. Basically, should it ask you for a search offset or not? And this repeats in another one that I haven't talked about, but same exact idea. And for the global search harp. Once again, this is not the default behavior because I do realize that most people don't know about them. But if you do know about search offsets, like I super recommend using this, like incredibly much. You can also search backwards, by the way, which I guess should go without saying. Like, yeah, it would be strange to not have this feature. Boom. So this is how I make this global search harp. I do it by searching for function, filter mature tasks, any characters that you want, then a switch. Then I actually do it smarter, like switch and then any name that is valid as a variable name. Then a new line, and after the new line, so starting from this point, match 0 width, match nothing with ZS, and then 7 lines down. So I do it in a bit more complex way. I technically don't need to, I just decided to use a bit more precise of a pattern. And that is how I go to this specific place that, once again, do remember, if I add some lines here, it will still work like exactly the same. I still end up at this exact place 7 lines down from switch name, even though a normal local mark or global mark, it doesn't really matter, would get invalidated. And the final one probably has the most power if you're like insane enough or autistic enough. I am autistic enough, and that's why I get a lot of power from this feature. Well, I mean, I feel like it's going to be useful even like for allistic people, regardless. So file type search harps. So local search harps are local to a file. Global search harps are not local to nothing, they're global, just have one set that you can use for like anywhere from anywhere. And file type search harps are relative to the file type. I am currently in Lua, so my file type is Lua. I might be in a README, which I don't have here. Okay, do I maybe have Markdown? I have CSS. So yeah, another file type, CSS. Toml, for example. And for each one of these file types, I can have my own set of search harps. So, for example, only in the language of Lua, there should be a search harp of whatever is inside a function. Let me go turn on my lights. Be surprised for now. So if I go to some other file, let's go to maybe Glaza. Yeah, sure, let's go to Glaza. And what? Oh, for fuck's sake, not this Glaza. Let's go to projects, Glaza. Oh, for fuck's sake. This is why I'm not like super excited about Zoxide, and I would rather usually use Harp. And I do, matter of fact, like I have the feature. I probably should just be using it. I decided to not do so on stream. In case I failed, it would be kind of like but then I just failed with Dockside, lol. Use ZI if you're not sure, but then I have to, every time I use Z, I'll have to think, am I sure? Because ZI then has the slowness of, actually, remind me, I'll explain why I don't use that later, because I'll go on a tangent. I am interested in going on that tangent, but a bit later. So right now I am in Rust, and I can use my file type search harp. The previous one for Lua was stored in I, and if I use I right now, nothing happens because it's a different file type, and so it has a separate, its own set of file type specific search harps, which means this is the prime like place to make your own text objects. Can you imagine the power, the sheer power that comes from being able to make your own text object on the go? Think of all the plugins that you probably have installed for NeoVim that give you different text objects. I mean, even various text objects. It's amazing, definitely. But have you ever wished, while installing a plugin like that, damn, I wish it had a text object for this very specific thing that I end up working with really often? Have you maybe tried searching for a plugin that implements that text object only to not find it? Have you not even tried because what you're trying to get is way too specific to even attempt searching for? Have you tried using tree-sitter text objects only to realize that they're ridiculously slow and usually don't even work how you want them to use? Well, you can actually do a lot of this work, of this text object work, using search patterns. If you can make a search precise enough for it to work for you, and I do, I'll skip the fucking thingy. I'll just look at it because I'm not gonna make this on stream. This took me like maybe 2 minutes, and that would be kind of too long. But if you can make a search pattern that is precise enough, it could be stupider and just work a bit less often than what I have currently here. So don't be particularly scared. This is not going to be always like this in your case. But here I made a search that catches, I know, right? That catches whatever is inside of a function. And the reason why it's so long and big and complex is because it works for both inline functions, so functions that are on a single line, or multi-line functions. This is why it's kind of complex. So now when I press enter, I have whatever is in this function matched. The great thing about searches and matches is that now you have access to the GN text object that is basically matches whatever the next match is. So you can do CGN to change over this search. Let me show this with an example of how this is useful. Let's say I want to change everything in this function. First of all, if I wanted to use tree-sitter text objects, I would do CIF, then I would wait for, I shit you not, 3 seconds, and then it would grab like not even what I wanted, probably a function that is an outer function that I didn't even know existed. But if I use a file type search harp, I can do a leader sfi cgn, and I'm here, and I can just continue changing what's inside of this function into something else. It was so fast, it was so simple. If once again, if we skip the part of having to actually make the pattern, and boom, I just was able to create an arbitrary text object for this specific thing. Isn't that incredible? And also I have something similar for just the next name of a function, and then this I don't remember what it is. Oh yeah, the next name of the function again. I'm not sure what's the difference. Oh yeah. So the next name of the function, which is a top level function and not a closure. So let me repeat that actually. The next function, which is a top level function and not a closure. That is an entire fucking sentence to explain this text object. That is how specific I can get by using search patterns to express my text objects. And then I can just CGN or DGN or YGN or whatever GN that I want. I can just act upon this area that I grabbed in whatever way I want. So with file type search harps, what you get is both the action of going to the next or previous, whatever the fuck you want, just up to you to make the pattern. And then also, as a gift, you get a text object for that whatever you want via GN. It is super fucking powerful. Which is why this is probably the coolest, the most powerful kind of idea. Because guess what? Now I can finally create something. Actually, have I already made it? I might have made it already. No, I have not. Let's actually show you how to create your own file type search harp. Well, first of all, it works exactly and literally the same as local search harps and global search harps. Like, the way you interact with them is exactly the same. The only difference between the three of them is what they are local to. Local to nothing, meaning global, local to file, and local to file type. Aside from that, the way you use them is exactly the same. So it's not like confusing. So I have always wanted a text object for the return type in Rust. I complain about it like a lot enough in the README, and I probably make a bit more sense there if you want to like read more about the reasoning and stuff. But long story short, let's go make a text object for the return type in Rust functions. So first I make sure that this arrow is matched, then ZS, then whatever the fuck you want, space, or rather ZE to end my match, and then space and the fucking brace. Boom. You can see now that I was able to, although not perfectly, fair enough, but well enough, match the next return type. And if I ever want to change this return type, I just do CGN, because I have access to it. So this is an action that I wanted to do for a long ass time, and I just didn't have any way of grabbing it. First of all, how do I get to that result? I'll probably have to use leap, and I would prefer to not use leap when possible, because it still has this cost of me looking at the letter, recognizing the letter, turning what this letter looks like into how to press it, and only then I jump there, rather than a more direct action. So I have this search. Let's add it as a file type search harp with no offset, because I want to place my cursor at the start of the return type. And now it's just this. Your mapping might even be faster. Maybe it's going to be 2 mappings, or 2 keys rather than 3 that I have. So mine is leader SF, and then it expects a key. Maybe yours is going to be even quicker, but like this is already really quick, and then CGN. So something that I had to constantly figure out how to do, getting to this specific place, now I have basically on a mapping. 4 keys and I'm there, and I'm always there in a predictable way. You can also do leader S capital F R to search backwards, and blammo, then CGN. And I could also make a search harp in the same R register for Lua, and they're going to be separate. So the fact that they are separate is basically the only reason why doing this is even viable at all, because a common text object that you might create is one for function, and you probably just want all of them to be on F, right? Well, thanks to them being file type specific, you very much easily can. I guess I haven't made one for function in Rust yet, mostly because they're all top level, and if they're all top level, I can just change inside indent, and this does kind of the same thing, so I don't think I need it. But whatever it might be that I want to get, like maybe, oh, inside the parameters of a closure. I don't think I have a closure here. Otherwise, I'll show you. But it's like similarly easy. You just search for it, grab the part that you actually care about, and here you go. You got the text object. But yeah, no closures here. Blammo. Isn't this incredible? I have not yet fully grasped the full power of this feature. I have not yet created like every single possible pattern, but I'm like super excited about it. You know why else? Something like the xcompose configuration file is its own file type. I mean, you only are going to have a single one anyway, but you also have a different file type if you want. So something that I made, I actually don't remember what register it's kept in anymore. Maybe V? No? Well, I guess let's make it. So, wait. Maybe it's K? I don't remember. Sure, let's make it. Let's search for multi-key, and then start grabbing as much as you want until the colon. And let's set this to file type as key. No offset needed. So now I can just go and change over this entire key definition, because usually getting to it is kind of annoying. So let me show you the usual case. Maybe I want to change the sequence for fire. First I go 8 down, then I need to do F opening triangle bracket, and now, well, I guess CT colon isn't too bad. Yeah, I guess this isn't too bad, but what I was thinking about is C3 F closing triangle bracket, which is kind of ridiculous. So yeah, you should be using this. But with something like this, I don't even have to. CGN, blammo. It's just immediate, instant, easy. All you have to do is make the pattern one time and just continue using it. An extra use case is what if you keep on needing to change the same exact string over and over again in a file? Maybe you, for fuck's sake, let's paste it back. Maybe you want to look at all the places where you require harp. Let's do harp and ZE to make sure it's like super precise for no reason. Let's add this as a local mark for P. I'm trying to remember which registers are not taken. Let's use Y. No, search offset. So now you can search for harp that is specifically required anytime you want. You can go to a different file, you can close and reopen new vim, and once you come back, it will still continue working because, well, it's stored. And so you can go easily to all the places that you want where harp is required. And see how fast and easy it was to add it? And now you have permanent access to easily jump into this thing. So it doesn't have to be specific locations in the file, it can just be some strings that you need to get to often or change over often. So you get text objects, motions to those text objects. You get sections in your file or multiple files. You get just literally strings that you want to search for and act on and go to. Like, you get so much out of this like stretchy functionality. It is amazing. I hope I have sold enough of the idea so that you can think of creative ways to use this for yourself. I'm sure like I am missing 90% of the power behind this. Because basically what this solves is the core issue of either this pattern is way too long to actually type in interactively, or I do not have enough registers to store all of the patterns that I could possibly want. So search harps solve this. And harp neovim overall solves this one problem. This one problem of I don't have enough blank to store all of this. And harp gives you a nice interface to store almost too much shit. Considering, like, see all the mappings that I have here. I use every single one of them actively. That is probably not going to be the general case. Probably most people are going to be a bit less crazy than me about using all the different types of harps, but if you do actively start using all of them, you get so much power in movement, it's crazy. So I think it's not like surprising that this is my favorite plugin. It's just way too powerful. Now, to the tangent that I promised I would get to. Use ZI if you're not sure, it opens FZF. Yes, I do actually know about that existing. However, the issue with this is that, so using Z and then let's do Ali, doesn't really matter. This is a 1-to-1 action. ZI Ali is a 2-to-1 action. I had to do 2 actions to get a single output, a single result with ZI. Here I needed, well, where else can I go? D, doesn't really matter. Here I need to do 1 action to get 1 result, which is why I am like motivated against using ZI. Basically, I have to spend more effort to use it in the general case. So then, if I am going to use ZI, my question is then, oh, I want to go to some specific place. Is it possible that it's not unique? So now, if I'm thinking about using ZI, I have an extra question that I have to ask myself. And this question is not worth the effort. So I would rather probably just memorize some certain string that is, like, unique, right? don't get me wrong, Zoxide is amazing. It is incredible, and you should be using it if you're not using it. It's a life changer. My point more so is that Harp is just kind of better because it moves you directly. From 1 to 1, it cannot make a mistake. Only you can. Only you can forget what is stored in your register, but considering that you do remember, it is only going to move you to the correct place. If I remember the mapping. Blammo, it moves you to the correct place stored in the register. And yes, I also use Harp in my shell here to change directories. I should make a more convenient mapping for it, because I also have it to leader SD, the same way that I have it for Neovim, but there's actually no need. I could just do M and uppercase M for it. So that's why I don't, that's why I don't use ZI, because it's more effort. I have a bit more energy for, I think, like one extra thing. We handled that, and that, oops, and that. Have quite a lot of stuff, don't I? Let's talk about this. Oh, because it's per project, and I'm in the wrong project, of course. Blammo. Okay, so this is an idea. AutoHotkey, a programming language for specifically Windows, has this concept called hot strings. Basically, you enter some sort of key combination and it turns it into a full-on string. I have been able to replicate this behavior on Linux using compose sequences. For what it's worth, I am very much abusing these. I'm pretty sure they're not meant for this, but I can essentially define hot strings as compose sequences and then be able to enter text via like a faster way. So it's my like special phrase. I say what in a living dying hell, blah blah blah, really often. It's my catchphrase basically. So I made a compose sequence for it, L ampersand DH, and it turns into this string. So if you've been looking for this kind of functionality on Linux, this is how you can have it. This is how you can use it. Just use compose sequences, and you can now easily enter text that you keep on needing to enter. So this string, for example, I use it really often in my searches to find an AI whenever I'm like, oh, how to do Blammo on EndeavourOS X11 Awesome WM, to make sure it has the context. So it doesn't say, oh, on Ubuntu, blah, 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 and on Wayland and on KDE. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So very useful thing to just have basically on a hotkey, but a hotkey that makes more sense because it's just some characters that I put in. Yeah. Let me show you one more thing, and I bounce. An interesting idea have been shown to me. I haven't started using it extensively yet, but it's technically interesting. Let's say you want to delete from this place up until this place. How would you do it? My gut reaction is to do D capital T opening brace. Makes quite a lot of sense, but what if you're here? Actually, no, my example won't work that way. Okay, Okay, let me just show you. So you can do $. Wait, works the other way around. I see. I see the example that I am going to show you. And now I understand it. So basically, $% works a bit weirdly. It moves you to the next closing brace, and if you are on a closing brace, or basically if it is the next brace, it moves you to the opening one. It's pretty weird, and I still haven't fully gotten used to it, but when you actually use it, it makes a bit more sense with this strange behavior. So you can use this strange behavior to delete backwards. So you can do $, and you delete like backwards towards the start, towards the opening brace, because the next brace is the closing one. And yet, if you do $% here, it deletes until the next closing brace. So it searches for this one and then goes to the closing one of this. So that's how it works here too. So we do $, and deletes backwards, right? The way it works is D, then it searches for the next brace. So DV, let's select first, searches for the next closing one, goes back to the other one, and then deletes. So from here to here. So this is very interesting behavior that I would like to be able to like actually use interactively. It generally doesn't really make sense to actually use, but it is at least very interesting. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.